recording. Tshiamo, how you doing? Welcome back.
I'm good, Daniel. How are you, bud?
Yeah, I can't complain, Tshiamo. So we chatted in the week about reflective learning, and I thought I would love to have you on Juice Ready just to chat about it a bit. And we had a great
Awesome.
chat last time about advertising and marketing, and I'll put the link to that one in the description. But give us a little bit of background about reflective learning and how you fit into it, how you and the history and the backstory of it.
Sweet. So just to ensure that we have it all be on the same page, the name of the company is called Reflective Learning,
Okay.
and the company was founded about 3 to 5 years ago. Yes, 2014. 2014. It was founded, and it was incorporated in 2017. So the original founders of the company were one part an amazing, brilliant mathematical mind in the form of Tracy Bouchard. She is one of the few people, D, that have really transcended the concept of maths as this intimidating, scary subject that is just set up to make everyone fail, but has really developed an approach to teaching mathematics that can turn anyone who is told, drop maths, leave it now, to actually becoming exceptionally brilliant at mathematics purely through her approach and a new word that I've learned, pedagogy. Pedagogy, sorry. Pedagogy, which is basically the science of how to teach and how do people learn, which is quite a brilliant concept in itself. But so she's kind of developed an approach that has made mathematics such an attainable subject to actually become good at it. So she ran this, developed the approach, built it up in 2014, and trialed it in a classroom environment back in Mpumalanga, where there was no connectivity, no laptops, literally as a manual exercise of sitting with learners and taking them through where they're strongest, where they're weakest at, and understanding exactly where are they not so strong in, and being able to help coach them and train them and importantly curate mathematics in a manner that makes it easier for them to be able to understand where they have particular gaps in understanding, but importantly, what are some of the key content that they need to start familiarizing themselves in order to become good at it. So what began initially as a very manual very labor and cumbersome exercise in 2014, she stumbled across Keelan Whiting.
Yeah.
Keelan was like, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, look, this is who I am, what I'm about, this is what I've done, this is the results of the work that I've done, and why are you making this exercise? Keelan's question to Tracy was, why are you still doing this thing in very, very labor-intensive approach? And she's like, but I've never actually had the capability or the time to be able to make it more efficient, make it more effective, give it more scale.
Automated.
And that is where, yes, and that's where Keelan came up and said, you know what? Take us through exactly what this process is. How does it work? What is needed? What are the gist of the content that needs to be curated and presented? And let us, and that's the name of the company that Keelan works, founded that stage was called Light Switch.
Yeah.
And they then helped take what was pretty much a very hands-on manual process and automated it and made it digital. And that was effectively the first day that reflective learning came to life as a fully automated online process that one part is made up of a diagnostic tool that helps identify gaps across mathematics as a concept. But then two, where the real remedial work is done is in the form of the catch-up content that helps identify saying, Tshiamo, you're struggling specifically with fractions. That's why you've not been able to do well with maths this entire time. And start giving you the content that helps you practice, become better and better in fractions, and then suddenly everything rolls out from there.
Yeah.
So the company kind of really, through Tracy's approach and through the work that Keelan has added to the mix, is that they've really understood that maths, think of maths as building blocks. There's no way you can move from the first floor to the third floor if you've not yet built the second floor. And that's what reflective learning does as a company and through its tool, is that we help identify what are the specific concepts within mathematics. And I'll give you a quick rundown of what I mean in terms of the concept of concepts within mathematics that I'm referring to.
Yeah.
That maths should be treated as building blocks. You cannot be afforded the opportunity to move from step 1 to step 4 if someone has not demonstrated full understanding and mastery of step 2 and step 3. Let's take it back to the schooling environment. Tshiamo's in class. Tshiamo gets 40%, 45% in maths. The pressure from the education department says Tshiamo needs to be pushed to the next grade, and hopefully he'll do well in the next grade. But guess what? Tshiamo is still stuck on the current grade that I'm battling with. I failed to understand maths at grade 3 level. How much more am I going to struggle with maths at grade 4 level, at grade 5 level, grade 6 level? And that's unfortunately the dilemma that our education department is facing, is that there's this quota they need to hit of getting learners through STEM subjects like mathematics. But yet the reality of it, a lot of kids are still stuck on step number 2 of their understanding in maths. And that should in turn explain why we're seeing so many kids struggling with mathematics at high school.
And dropping out of school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think
So,
what sometimes happens is, and this happened to me at school, definitely. I got for geometry in my, because I actually dropped maths and I took up computer studies, and then in after school I went back and did my matric maths in Cape College so that I could go and do my degree, which was just a long way around, really. And I think there was foundations stuff that was missing, which is why reflective learning is so interesting to me. And for geometry, I remember getting there's 2 exams in the school we went to, Pinelands. There's a geometry exam, and then there's an algebra exam, and then they put trigonometry. They put it into the I think they put it into the algebra exam, if I'm not mistaken. But for geometry, I got like 90%. And for algebra, honestly, I think it was between 5 and 10%. I was just really bad at it. And that's why that's why I just dropped maths and took computer studies, which was more interesting to me anyway. And I mean, now I work with search engines and that sort of, it's not IT.
Algorithms.
Yeah.
You work with algorithms.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why I think that pardon me. I think what's really interesting to me is, well, first of all, education is very interesting to me. But and I'll come back to that now. But I want to talk to you about the different ways in which children learn. But what's very interesting to me is the diagnostics tool and how it picks up the gaps. So I don't know. Sorry, I might have cut you off. You might have just been talking about that, you know. And
no stress. I was actually going to go back to it. So with the concept of pedagogy, and I'll start there. It's the science of understanding how people learn. And I think, let me present it in this instance, is that there's some of us that are very photographic in our memory. How we receive information, we receive it very much photographically, like it's like a snapshot, and it stays up until we replace it with another picture. There are some that are very verbal in their learning, that I need to tell you what is the content for you to get it. Versus some of us that are very visual in our learning, that we learn through reading, we learn through exposure to the content, and that's how we learn. So that is an element of understanding. That's one level of understanding pedagogy. Then it gets into much deeper levels around, is Tshiamo's predisposition to learning one of, I am optimistic about learning, or am I pessimistic about learning? Then it gets to another deeper level around, am I a fast learner or am I a slow learner? Do I persevere in my learning, or do I just move forward if I don't understand it? So there's so many degrees, so many lenses one can take in understanding how do people learn, that really goes missing in terms of how education is facilitated today.
And sorry, I wanted to just cut you off there and stop you and say, why are some people optimistic about learning and negative, and why are some pessimistic about learning, and why is learning such an emotional thing? Well, why do you think?
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
And that's when the psychology of education comes into play, in the sense that currently the way education, our curriculums are built up, they're built up to favor a certain predisposition of learning. More often than not, it's the verbal, it's the, I prefer reading my content, versus I need to be taken through it step by step. So our education system and curriculum is designed in such a way of moving at a certain pace, learning taking place at a certain pace to cater to a certain predisposition of learning. As a result, the vast majority of us who are not predispositioned to learn in that way get stuck and eventually feel like we're struggling this entire time. And I think very similar to you, D, is that I'll never forget the two instances in my life that I got a 90 plus in a subject. One of those was mathematics, one of those was science. And the funny thing about it, D, is they happened only once. Immediately after getting that 90 plus in maths, in science, the next test, it was like, these are two different people that wrote,
Yeah, no, I
that
agree.
wrote the
Yeah, no.
same subject.
So, what, how do you diagnose in the diagnostic tool pessimism, and how do you treat it? Is that it might be a
So
difficult one
it's
to answer.
really it's really about understanding learning behaviors, and I think that's the heart of it. And there's a whole paper that Tracy has put together around understanding learning behaviors and the pedagogy that goes with learning certain learning behaviors. Like for instance, think of an exam environment. The challenge with an exam environment, it's already a high pressure environment. You're already feeling tense. You're already anxious. So do not afford yourself the time to really wrestle with a question, understand it, and ask questions to better be enlightened around how to approach that question. Rather, we're told that Daniel is able to perform at the same level, whether the environment is a high pressure environment or a very relaxed. The first thing we've learned, guys, is that learning is more effective when it's relaxed. When the environment is more relaxed and conducive and open to receive information, that is when we get the greatest amount of learning taking place. But second to that is also understanding, how does Daniel prefer to learn? Our current classrooms are not catered to that. Our current environments for learning are not designed to give Daniel the same content at a pace and at a approach that best suits his learning. And to me, I'm just using it as a precursor, saying that the future, in my opinion, the next massive 5 steps forward in education is companies that are able to provide Daniel with the necessary content from grade R all the way to matric, presented and curated in a manner that is best fit to Daniel's approach to learning. Right now, if you want that kind of approach to learning, you need to go to a Montessori. But truth be told, most public school learners do not have access to a Montessori style of
Yeah.
learning.
Well,
So it
that's why.
means then that,
Yeah.
yeah?
Oh, sorry. First finish, and then I'll. Uh,
So it means that the biggest push and the challenge on the public sector is to really introduce more technology, introduce more innovation to the space. Let us sit and chat with the likes of yourselves, Daniel, people that are in the world of digital and design. Say, guys, you have already cracked how people are consuming content. How do we take those learnings and apply it into the world of mathematics? How is someone able to remember what I tweeted 6 years ago, but yet are struggling to understand what was taught in class last week? Clearly, there's
right.
something we're not doing right that we can learn from the guys that are driving innovation in the form of your agency, D, in the form of the world of guys, in my opinion, driving innovation in the world of content and how content is curated and presented, how those algorithms are designed. Is
Yeah.
what can we learn from such industries and apply that into the world of education? So
I would
I'm
say,
giving that as a long,
yeah. No,
I'm using that as a long-winded approach, yeah,
I
to
would,
say
I
that
would.
that is what underpins, yeah, what reflective learning does as well through mathematics. We provide personalized textbooks, digitally and automated, and presented in a way that is best fit for how a learner has indicated, I prefer to learn in this manner through our diagnostic assessment.
Okay. No, that's very interesting. And on your point about, private schools do sort of cater to the individual much more than public schools, and I think it's just the resources they have to do that. So there's a huge gap that we need to catch up with, and technology is a good way to catch up that gap. And then to your point about how could we innovate, I think that you guys could definitely get some ideas from content creators like myself, but I would need to understand more about the algorithm and the diagnostics tool before that.
Yeah, yeah.
But so tell me more. Mathematics, what other subjects? Is it just rolling out for maths right now?
So where the biggest tension is right now for the Department of Education is very much STEM subjects. And the STEM
Okay.
subjects are pretty much your science, maths, biology, accounting, and economics. Those are really where the heart of the energy is for the department to get right. And part of the exercise that we are seeing and learning from daily is everyone is struggling with one consistent subject, and that is mathematics. So as we are today, we are providing a solution that is best fit and catering to helping learners learn and be able to catch up on mathematics as a starting point. Knowing that we've got science ready, knowing that we've got accounting ready, knowing that we've got several other subjects in pipeline ready to be rolled out. The challenge is we need the demand to meet, we need the demand to match the resourcing that's required. Because up until this point, we've realized that, and as much as we can say to people, guys, we're ready with science, we're ready with accounting, we're ready with this, if there's no demand for it, we're kind of shooting in the dark. So rather what we're waiting for is to demonstrate efficacy of how we're able to help learners catch up in mathematics, and then we can start subsequently rolling out science, accounting, and the likes in turn. And maybe just as a bit of a plug for how good this tool is. Through Reflective Learning's tool and approach designed by Tracy Bouchard, we have seen learners that at grade 10, Daniel, were told, drop mathematics, you've got no future, you're not going to do well. On average, this learner was sitting at about 46%. But through, listen to this, 1 year's worth of engaging with our content, they were able to turn that 46% to, hear me out, about a 70% at the end of grade 10.
Amazing.
Heading into grade 11, that 76% became 84. At the end of matric, that 84 became a low 90. To this day, we're talking to someone who was awarded with a Science and Innovation Award, knowing that at grade 10, grade 9, he was being told, drop mathematics, you're not going to do well. So just think about that as a story of just presenting learning as a whole in a pitch, and importantly in a manner that is best fit to how a learner prefers to learn. How many more 8th grade students could we see coming out of our schools? I mean, just imagine if someone took the time with me and you to say, Tshiamo, why did you do so well in this aspect of science, but then the next paper you bombed out? Daniel, how could you do so well in geometry on one paper, but in the next subject you bombed out?
I didn't know at the time, but it's making sense now,
you get what I'm saying? And in my mind, if someone had to take the time to say, let's understand what is it about geometry that made it so easy for you to understand, and how do we then apply that across more?
I think that's what it comes down to, and I'd like to put that case study in the description so that people can look at it if you guys do have it up on the site. But
I'll share it with you.
I think what it comes down to is really if you get a student going from 40% to low 90s, it really comes down to, okay, they're actually enjoying it now. I mean, the reason why I did poorly at school is I hated it. And the reason why I'm not trying to be funny or anything, but the reason why I'm excelling at what I'm doing right now is because I'm loving it. And I think part of why do I wake up early in the morning to write an article for my blog? Or why do I wake up early in the morning to catch up with work yesterday that I just want to really or send an email that just looks perfect instead of just an average email? It's because I love what I do, and I think it's a big difference. And it really you're on mute, by the way. It really strikes home when you say positivity and negativity, or sort of optimism and pessimism has a massive part to play in education. And I mean, the reason I started this podcast is also because I wanted to, drive extra traffic, take a look at the YouTube analytics side, not only just doing paid media on YouTube. And so just driving innovation is something that happens when people enjoy what they do.
Exactly. I mean, Daniel, think about this. How many of our peers who maybe at high school did not do as well, but yet suddenly when they start doing their diplomas, their degrees and certification after varsity, suddenly getting an A becomes easier? It's because they are engaged in whatever they're learning post high school. So it says that the issue has never been the learner themselves, but everything to do about how learning was taking place at said educational institution. Yeah. And that for me is really why I'm increasingly getting to a point through my journey with effective learning that actually, guys, subjects as a whole are not as intimidating. Maths is not as intimidating. Science is not as intimidating. All that is needed is for us to become better at curating this learning experience for learners. Let us take the time. Let us be willing to be patient to say that, you know what, Tshiamo, if it really needs us to spend 18 months of you to understand completely grade 10 mathematics before we graduate and promote you to grade 11. Who knows how much more well Tshiamo will do in grade 11, grade 12, if we just will be patient enough to say, guys, let's spend adequate time in understanding how these individuals within our high schools and our primary schools like to learn before we start bombarding them with one very a general sweep approach to learning that is currently taking place. And in my mind, guys, there's no such thing as a dumb kid. It's dumb teachers, personally.
Right.
Dumb teachers that are not willing to simply say, guys, can we just pause to understand, does everyone get it? Can we take a time to ask, is there everyone clear about what is being asked and what is required of you? There's no such thing as a dumb question. I mean, it sounds silly when we talk about this now, do you want to reflect back? But truth be told, these are some of the questions that are not being afforded us. These are some of the environments that are not being created for us in high school. That I remember this one class that I was in at high school that I was genuinely embarrassed to let the class know that I did not get this very simple concept that was being presented by the teacher on the chalkboard.
Yeah.
And I was really hoping that the learner would have been able, the teacher would have been able to read the room saying, you know what, just in case there's someone who doesn't get it, I'll explain it one more time.
Yeah,
You get what I mean by
and kids are mean. So you say, I just don't get it. And someone else goes, oh, what an idiot. So kids are mean. And I mean, that's just the way it is. And you got to get a thick skin and just say, no, I just don't get it. Let's go again. And I mean, in varsity, I was that annoying person that would make the lecturer tell me again and again, and I would ask a lot of questions. People would get pissed off. This guy's asking way too many questions. But now at the end of like when I write the exam, I'm getting good marks. And the people that were getting pissed off were getting lower marks. So
let's think about it in the context of the conversation we had the last time about interns that come to work for some of our companies.
yes,
It's always the interns that are irritating us the most, that
Right.
do the best at their job,
100%.
are the ones that constantly ask, but why are you doing this? But am I doing this right? Can you show me one more time? They're the ones that are doing so well in the working environment because of overcoming that barrier, developing that thick skin to say,
Yeah.
I don't mind my superior, my manager, thinking that I am foolish because I'm constantly asking the same question 3 times.
Yeah.
That for me is something we need to start enabling and normalizing in high school,
Yes.
so that we have more kids that are confident to say, I don't know. Help me. Explain it one more time. Can I spend more time with you?
It's almost as if and with interns, I'll say this: an intern that becomes permanent at my company is one that is consistently actually annoying, and annoying in a good way. Annoying like, sorry, I'm just letting you know you're on mute again. I think you're pushing it with your finger. Annoying in a way.
I'm trying to keep my little one who's jumping in the background from not
Okay.
making too much noise.
I'll just keep you for 2 more questions, T. But annoying in a way,
That's right.
annoying in a sense of, you know, I actually really want you to explain that to me again, because it really and what it does is it actually shows interest. Whereas some interns, what you get is, yep, I got it, understand it, and then when they actually implement a strategy or a proposal or a campaign or a setup, like a basic setup, they get it wrong because they weren't actually irritating enough. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, let me just ask you. So you say that you know, you guys need a bit more demand. As when the demand increases, you guys roll out your operations. But how do you get that demand to increase? If I'm a kid in a school somewhere, and we can talk about sort of what type of schools you guys are going for. But if I'm a kid in a school somewhere, when do I get reflective learning, and how does it roll out?
Yeah. So so our solution, maybe let me talk solution then before I get into rollout. So our solution is completely web app browser based. And it's really something that is online, accessible to all. And the beauty of having it live online, it allows us to be able to really capture as much big data information as we can about the learners, their learning behaviors, their learning patterns, and I'm really getting to the gist of where are the biggest tension points for them in their approach to learning mathematics and other subjects. So that's exactly where our platform lives. We provide it through a subscription-based model. and specifically why subscription-based model, is that we are very much cognizant of the fact that everyone has got a different approach to learning. Everyone's got different gaps. Some gaps are significant, some gaps are not so significant. So we afford you as a learner, as a parent of a learner, the room to engage with us for as long as necessary. If it takes 1 month for you to be able to close all your gaps, brilliant. If you're going to need it a little further, more months to do that, we afford you just that. So that's currently how we make our product available, and that's how to access it through our website, reflectivelearning.co.za, all in lower caps, one word, .co.za. That'll give you the heart of everything and how to get yourself access to our platform. And over and above that, what we've started to do is also partner with several schools as well as foundations that have got a pool of learners that they're saying, hey, we believe that this could be of benefit to our learners. Come and run their diagnostic assessment. And for as many learners that are at high risk of not doing well, can you curate something a little bit more structured, more packaged for them to get involved with reflective learning? So that's currently how we roll out direct to parents and learners, as well as through foundations and schools.
Okay.
Now, specifically in terms of, I think the second part of the question, which is, I think, how do we then get learners on board? So let me put you in the position of a parent first and foremost. More often than not, the biggest hurdle we need to overcome with parents and learners is the perception that my kid is doing well.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like I said, the way in which our current educational system is set up and designed, it's set up in such a way that it allows us as parents to be complacent to getting more involved with what's really happening in our kids at school. For instance,
And if they're passing, they might only be getting 40%, 45%, but that's the pass mark. That's where complacency
exactly.
comes in.
So yes. So for instance, a standard term is about 3 months long, and top of the term, Daniel starts with said subjects. Then Daniel tells me as a parent that, hey, I'm writing an exam or test in the next few weeks. Cool. Write the test. Then this is about as involved as a parent gets with how Daniel is doing. So Daniel, how was the test? I think I did all right. It ends there. So the challenge there is twofold. One part, a learner overestimates their own ability in a certain subjects. So you ask a learner.
I think they just want to stay. I'm going to tell you straight from the horse's mouth, out of someone that failed at school. I think they just want to. I was quite happy when you put me as an example as the learner. I was happy with that. Being the parent, maybe not so much. Bad example here. But I think the parent's busy trying to make money to send the kid to school and pay for bills and put food on the table, and that kind of. They don't really have time for, and not that they're bad parents, they're actually good parents. That's why they're sending their kids to good schools or whatever, but they just don't have the time to always show that level of interest that something like the diagnostic tool could show. And then from the learners, from the learner's point of view, they're just trying to stay out of trouble. I mean, you're getting it from the horse's mouth. If I'm not in the principal's office, I'm cool. And if I've got 40% and I'm passing, fine, leave me alone. I'm interested in playing soccer after school, and I'm interested in playing cricket on the weekend, and I don't care about anything else. So I think that's what comes down to.
And that's exactly it. So from a learner point of view, I'd always oversell how I'm doing to my parent. Sure. Then from a learner point of view, for as long as my child has not told me I'm struggling, there's no need for an intervention.
Right. So
the first barrier to overcome is really level the playing field between the learner and the parent. Say, guys, complete the diagnostic assessment so that without a shadow of doubt, we can confirm indeed whether Tshiamo is doing well as he's telling you. And alternatively, for you as a parent, we can put your anxieties at peace to know there's nothing to be worried about in how Tshiamo is learning. Right. It's only in overcoming that and creating that level playing field between learner and parent about what exactly is happening. That's when we can really start seeing the engagement that we want to see with our platform and our tool. So that is the first thing we've had to learn to overcome, especially with parents and learners, around getting them onto the same level playing field about there are some foundational gaps that potentially could explain why Tshiamo is still stuck at 40% in mathematics. Okay. Then the second part to it is really explaining the concept of what we call catch-up content. And that is a new term that is starting to be popularized through the work that we're doing. And popularized in the sense that everything we are exposed to up until this point, Daniel, is what they call practice content. What is practice content? Daniel, are you writing a grade 10 exam next month? Perfect. Go through the past papers. That is practice. That is not learning. That is hoping by some luck. The same question you did at grade 10 last year will be presented in the exact same way in this year's paper.
But do you know
that is also
just on that, in the agency, like, we do a lot of drills, and that's how juniors learn. And at school, that I wasn't doing any of that. It just doesn't happen. So I mean, I totally sort of what's the word? I find that familiar. I mean, sorry, I identify with that. That's what I was trying to say.
In as much as it's very familiar, it also presents a challenge in really getting to this point of what is really learning. Because learning, in my opinion, is one part making someone cognizant of where they lack knowledge in, and two, being able to provide that knowledge in a manner that empowers them to be able to apply that knowledge elsewhere.
Yeah.
That is not how our catch-up and our practice content is designed. Our practice content is designed for Daniel to truly be told, recite it, memorize, and replicate, versus understand in order to apply. And that's what we do particularly different at Reflective Learning, is that we bring to your attention where you have gaps, two, how that gap might impact your understanding of mathematics, then three, empower you with the content you need in order to be able to start the process of getting clear about closing that gap, showing your mastery of that concept before we can say, cool, Tshiamo, here's the practice content from last year's exam paper. Let's see how well you do. Because the challenge that we find ourselves in, and I'm honestly I was at fault for doing this, is that I would dedicate so much time heading into a test, heading to exam, memorizing a answer.
Yeah.
That I remember that it was line number 1, line number 2, line number 3, and I should get to the right answer. I get into the exam room, and then that same question is presented, knowing that this is the answer. What was the question? And I'm like, what? I never studied that. I was never told to remember this thing from answer back to question. And that's where a lot of us get stuck. And my hope, D, is that just in really kind of narrating this analogy to you, a lot of the people and a lot of the viewers and the guys joining in on this podcast and the podcast is that they start identifying with their own gaps. And when they were in high school, that, you know what, I was also one of those guys that I just tried to recite, I tried to memorize an answer versus simply saying, let me understand the problem. Because the challenge, let's bring it into real world terms. A client gives you a brief. You memorize what was done previously, whether it be within the agency, whether it be for that same said brand. You get into the room and here client throws a spanner. But how are we going to do it without SEO? Completely throws off your entire proposal.
Yeah, that's
because
problem
you've never in that scenario of what does the same solution look like without SEO? What does the same solution look like without PR? What does the same solution look like, and let's use lockdown, without the ability to trade in our practice? Yeah. We don't get enough of those opportunities to say, actually, guys, it's about understanding the principle behind the proposal we submit to the clients. So that if client has to come to us and say, guys, I know that I asked you to present a R1 million budget idea, but here's only 200,000 Rand. We can then start applying ourselves, saying that same idea can be executed on a 200,000 Rand budget versus what you initially told us as R1 million. And that for me is a learning that I think anyone can learn and apply right across the board.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you guys need a little bit of search marketing, but I'll just leave that thought right there. And I'll ask you, I've got 2 more questions for you. So, like, I mean, you know what Juice Ready is all about, so giving back. Is there any way that you guys are able to give back yet, or do you still need that demand to be higher until such a time where you can roll this out into communities that need it in a way that you're giving back? Or is that just not possible yet?
So funny enough,
I'm a journalist. I've got to ask the tough questions, eh?
No worries. Funny enough, this is something I need to commend. So I mentioned earlier, one of the 2-part prong that make up reflective learning.
And my
I mentioned
final,
Keelan Whiting.
my final question is, how did you get involved? So you can maybe answer them both
All
at
right,
the same time. Yeah.
I'll get that. So the one part of this two-headed amazing dragon that we are riding is Keelan Whiting, who is the
Yeah.
tech expert within the business. Then the second part of the business is Eugene Peltrick.
Okay.
I mean, we studied with Eugene at high school. You remember
Yeah.
him. And he is a genius of note, Daniel, and
Amazing
in the
guy.
sense
Yeah.
that his background specifically coming from a world of NGO, NPO space,
Okay.
coupled
I
with
didn't know
his
that.
expertise as an actuary, has built up the business model that drives what we do at Reflective Learning to ensure that in as much as we are targeting primarily private schools or what we call quintile 3 and 4 schools, this is where 4 and 5 schools that, I'm sorry, I always keep on getting the quintiles wrong, but basically we're targeting your private school learners, guys that already are used to the idea of spending thousands of rand on extramural activities to say, look, here is something very much in line to what you're spending for your master maths, spending on a tutor, that'll help you improve your mathematics. We've built into our monthly subscription fee for every one learner that we get as a private school learner, we are able to sponsor a public school learner in our model.
Amazing.
So already within the DNA of our business, it's already worked in that for every good that we do in recruiting a private school user, we can also provide this tool to as many public school learners as possible. I mean, funny enough, coming out of July, we ran an amazing campaign linked to Mandela Month, whereby we invited the public, those with 1,200 Rand to spare, to just donate that to us as a business, and we will match it and get 3 additional learners from a public school sponsored with access to our platform. So this is some of the ways in which we are going and paying it forward for the work that we believe if we can get full support from government, we can make this tool available to every single public school learner in this country and potentially to the rest of the continent. So I hope I answered your question as to how we're giving back.
Yeah.
Now, the second part around what is it that and how I got involved. So initially when I got engaged by both Keelan and Eugene in Johannesburg around what they're doing and how they're going about doing it, please excuse my little one.
That's okay. I know you're multitasking.
They initially approached me with the idea of helping them find the right person to play the role of, we need someone to drive new business. We need someone to drive the commercialization of our offering to the main market, to as much of the mass as possible. So despite my every attempt to get them connected to the right people, they were still adamant and saying, Tshiamo, we thought about it, we just want you. How do we get you involved? They shared their vision, they shared what is it they're trying to achieve, and I was sold out. I was really sold out to this ambition. And even looking at it from my own personal career, I found it that this is the next step up for me. And step up in the sense that I've sold hair care, I've sold cosmetics, I've sold innovation,
Alcohol.
I've sold beer, I've sold alcohol, I've sold medicine. Why not take the gamble and saying, can I bring some of my magic and innovation into the world of education? And that is how I eventually just decided, February 2020, I'm joining this amazing company to say, guys, here's a chance to really make a lasting impression, not only on the continent, but potentially on the world. So don't be surprised one of these days, or months, years to come, I might be stepping up to get my Nobel Peace Prize in education. Just saying.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. T, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you for multitasking. I know you're with the kids, and I think it's such, education obviously is such an important issue. It actually is the most important issue. Say hello. Say hello. Say hello. Thank you, T. I really appreciate it.
That's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure, Daniel. Like I say, I'm a big fan of Juice Ready.
Thank you, bud.
And I think we need more curators of content like you. We need more people sharing their, can you see me? Yes, we need more people sharing their thoughts and ideas with the world. And on my side, I commend you, and I continue to look forward to contribute towards it.
Thank you, T. I'll look forward to having you back. Cheers.